What's up YouTube? This is the start of the Cherokee build. Let's check this thing out. Here's a little teaser of what's done so far. I wanted it to be low key, looking like a roof rack from the front, so when you roll up to checkpoints it's pretty discreet. Underneath, everything's tied in through the floor, straight to the frame, welded to the pinch weld. If you're not familiar with the Cherokee, full skids, long arm, frame stiffeners front to back, and that's what those rear A-braces are tied to. Then up front, it's a little more traditional with A-pillars and a dash bar. This is the Cherokee that we did the entire perimeter of Mexico in. All the way to Cabo, all the way back, all the way down mainland, Mazatlan, Acapulco, all the way around the point, came up through Cancun, back up the Gulf, and back in through Reynosa. Took about 3 weeks, and this was the perfect vehicle for that trip. I couldn't have asked for anything more. Maybe a little more creature comforts like AC, but nevertheless, here it is. We can go over the backstory another time, but regarding this project, we're gonna cage it. So we're gonna tear it down and build it back up from scratch. And I thought it might be useful to go through some of the really high level decision making and fab stuff while we do it. This is a really important point that I think people don't consider. If you're gonna cage something like this, it's really important to think about what you're doing. If you're gonna drive this on the road, are you going to put a 5-point harness on every single time you get in and out of this? And if the answer is no, the cage will kill you faster than it's gonna save you. Second, if it's not for any specific race, there's no spec for the cage. And so that means, where do you put the main hoop? What do you tie it to on the floor? What size tubing? All of that. We'll go through sort of that decision-making process. Depending on what your experience is, you're going to want to start with a simple Google search. Determine what sport most closely represents your activities, and just start digging. Maybe your car is kind of like rally, then according to this website, they want their cages to MSA or FIA spec. Maybe you're looking to go really fast in a straight line, then you'll probably end up with this SFI spec. And by far, this is probably the most ubiquitous. The way that they break down their classes is by ETA and weight. So basically how fast you're gonna go and what the car weighs. So now we're on to something. So for the Cherokee, we'll probably end up being somewhere around probably more than 3,500 pounds, but less than 5,000. So we would probably want to pick this one. And what I mean by digging is just start consuming this stuff. Get familiar with the terminology, what they're trying to accomplish. For example, this particular document talks about the padding on your roll cage, but it's geared towards manufacturers making products, so it's off the deep end, which is kind of good for learning. It's got things that you wouldn't consider, like when your car lights on fire, what kind of materials to use, how hot does that fire get, all kinds of stuff. Alright, for me, my activities most closely represent desert racing. Not that I want to build this thing to go fast. What I want to do is have a look at future in case I want to add tubes later to bring it up to a higher speed. Even though they're for trophy trucks or really fast classes, this is where I want to start and dial it back. So here we're looking at Score International's website, and I'm looking for the competition regulations for 2025, and then you can scroll down to the roll cage section, which is CR33, and then let's see what's in there. Some really awesome guidelines in here. A lot of general knowledge. Big debate about what material, continuously drawn seamless or drawn over mandrel tubing, is required. MIG and TIG only. Here's an interesting one for chromoly. Heat treating is strictly prohibited, but stress relieving is encouraged. Not that any of that's really of consideration for the DIY guy, but here's where it really starts getting interesting. This is the design fundamentals for the passenger compartment. Clearly defining the bubble around the passengers as the passenger compartment, talking about weld order. Here's a very good one for what we're doing is no dead tubes allowed. And in the middle of the screen, you can see what they mean is all tubes must end in a junction. and not in the middle of a tube. And then they go into further detail talking about how to structure it. You can have different size tubings in the junction. So if we fly into a geyser truck without the cover on, you can see no dead tubes. Everything's triangulated, everything's into a junction. Another thing you'll notice is no bends. So now everything's mitered, laser cut, replaceable. And if there is a bend, it has to be mandrel bent. So it's pretty easy to see that the standards are going way, way, way up. And that's why you see things even being spec'd inside of the miter, these miter joints, tube density in the junction, connection specifications, standardized tube names and thicknesses, what bends are allowed and some being mandatory, and if there isn't a bend, how to deal with it. Mid-rail junction specifications, meaning if you have to connect tubes together, how to do it with a slip tube and rosette welds. A-pillar supports are now mandatory for score. Door bars. Here's the fundamentals for intrusion. Maximum bends for head clearance. Gusseting, which type of gussets are allowed and where they have to be. A big reason why all this is coming down the pipe is speeds are getting faster and faster. It doesn't take much skill to go fast. Hit the skinny pedal and hold it. The skill really comes into going fast while not killing yourself. So let's just keep in mind that this is the gold standard, okay? This is what the future looks like. This is what's coming down the pipe for all cages. 2 inch is now standard, no more 1 3/4, no more bends, everything's mitered. Then the final thing to take from this document is coming back to the FSI spec for harnesses. In that spec, they've done a really good job of outlining the maximum angles and lengths and also how to tie and attach the harnesses. Come back to that. That's one end of the extreme. What if you don't have a cage at all? I bought this Cherokee for parts. What can we learn from it? In terms of severity, they did pretty good. There's not one panel on this that's not crushed. So it's not like it just flopped over. Every single corner on the roof is crushed. Corners of the hood are smashed. Even started to fold the body. None of the doors close right. The rear hatch is buckled. Front fenders are killed. So the important thing to take away is they walked away from this relatively safely. And they almost drove this thing home. It lost a lot of fluids because it was laying upside down. So they ended up towing it, but this thing will drive on and off the trailer, no problem. So in the last couple minutes, let's talk about in between those two spectrums, and that's going to be looking at pre-runners. Why? Because they have the freedom to do what they want without a race spec, but still keeping safety in mind while making reasonable accommodation to keep it functional. Again, back at Geyser, here is the template for a race truck, but inside the steel cab is a bunch of bent tubing and dead-end terminations. So anyway, the takeaway is that there are best practice. We could follow the race guidelines to survive a 150 mile an hour crash. But at the end of the day, we got to do what we got to do to get it fully welded inside the truck in a way that's not going to kill you if you get into an accident if you don't have a 5-point harness on. So if that didn't make your eyes glaze over, stay tuned for episode 2 because there's still some time. We didn't even get into any of the footage talking specifically about this vehicle and why I chose the design or how it ended up or what's left unfinished. So we'll cover all of that in episode 2 and we'll end that one basically where this sits today. Why those A supports aren't triangulated. We'll talk about that impossible Z-bend in the A-pillar. Why the roof looks like it's some kind of a truck thing. Why I feel okay about that. Let's cover all that in episode 2. Anyway, thank you so much if you're still with us. Follow along for more. Like, subscribe, comment. Tell me that you hate this cadence as much as I do. I really want to slow it down and talk more, be a little bit more elaborate, but there's so much going on and it's not my primary objective to be making videos. It's trying to get this stuff out, trying to get back out and exploring. Anyway, as always, don't be afraid to reach out and get involved. I want this. I want as many people in here helping me as possible. Get your hands on it. You don't have to know anything. I'm sure you have a skill that we can use. Let's get out there. Let's do it. And we'll see you on the next one.